So I will tell you the only modality I've been trained in as far as a vital body medicine modality. And, and there's many out there, but mine was EFT. That was back in the 2003, 2004 era when Gary Craig was getting that out to the world. And so I was one of the first, I don't know how many thousand, whatever. But I was in the early ages of EFT. And I do see myself as a pioneer just a little bit. So so that was something that was very new. It was not known. And it's been amazing to watch over the last 20 years how much emotional freedom technique, or the tapping technique, has become more familiar, more even researched and supported, even in the mental health field. And I didn't know if I'd ever see that day. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit more on that. But I asked Dawn Norton, who's our next speaker, to share her experience in getting trained in this. So she's also a BYU graduate with a foundation in education. She's navigated a dynamic path encompassing 15 years as in real estate, and then transitioning from a dedicated stay-at-home mom role to more of a lifelong learning mindset, health and wellness career. So she's a national board certified health and wellness coach and a 20-year, so she got involved about when I did, clinical EFT practitioner. She brings a wealth of experience to professional women. Her purpose is to empower women of faith to overcome stress and trauma through mind-body mastery, restoring balance, courage, and purpose to become women they're designed to be. It's really helpful when you know who you're here to serve, right? So I love that we have men on the call and we have a wide range of ages, I'm sure. And so please do not feel excluded. But we're going to let Dawn take it away, and then I'll be kind of doing some dovetailing with her as we kind of open up this field, this modality.
Well, thank you, Christine, for the introduction and for allowing me to be here to present. And I'm especially grateful for Tamara's presentation, because the vast amount of research that she has done to validate energy healing as Christians, because there are so many still out there, Christians in general and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint, who think this is so woo-woo and so like out of the ordinary and to stay away from it. And I can say that at the very beginning of my journey, I had similar questions. My husband was a bishop in our church at the time, and I was scared to death of getting into anything that was, dark or anything like that. So I did a ton of research in the scriptures and came to some very similar conclusions as Tamara did, that this was the light of Christ that I was working with. And I also love that she said she doesn't call herself a healer. I don't call myself a healer either. I feel like I'm learning the healer's art every day, and that I get to be a space for healing for other people. And in that space is the light of Christ. And so, my expertise is what I bring with what I've done. And there are so many amazing modalities out there that can help us in our journey to healing. And I just love it. There we go. All right. So today's presentation, I'm just calling Less Stress, More Living. And what is stress? You guys all know what stress is, but it's our relationship. It's the way that we respond to any kind of demand. And that can be positive or negative. We have a tendency to think that stress is a negative-based response, but it actually can be a response to positive stress as well. And so, yesterday we had an awesome presentation on all the different, the fight or flight, freeze or fawn. And those states put us in, bring in some stress hormones, the main one being cortisol. And those stressors can come from physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual stressors. So the number one stressor for most people is work or money or the economy. So that's interesting. Also, 75 to 90% of the physical symptoms that we experience come from stress. So there's all kinds of studies that talk about how it affects the heart, the cardiovascular system, hypertension, stroke, those kinds of things. And that there's been a lot of research saying that any kind of stress management skills are going to lower the risk of future heart attacks or other stress-related symptoms or diseases just by learning that stress management, and even better than exercise or standard cardiac rehabilitation. So it's also important to remember that illness usually follows a period of stress. I actually have a little bit of a sore throat this week, and so I've been doing things to manage that. And so I could probably look back and see what kind of stress I've been over in the last few weeks and identify some of that. There are lots of ways to reduce stress. There are so many great presenters this week that are on this summit, and we've already had breathing and meditation and yoga and others. And so there are a variety of ways for us to reduce stress. Some of them are just calm down, just to get centered, get present, take a few deep breaths, and reduce your stress. Find things to be positive or grateful for, focusing on the good instead of when you're in a stressful moment and you're thinking, oh, these things are going wrong, and you're feeling all that tension, to just stop for a minute, take a few deep breaths and say, what is there good going on right now? Finding the seed of an equal or greater benefit in the experience. Looking at the big picture. Sometimes we're in something that's not just a today stress, it's an ongoing stress, disease or death or experiences with our family members. And so sometimes it helps just to look at the big picture. What's happening in the next 5 years? Is this going to last that long? Probably not. Believing it will work out, using faith, exercising, forgiving yourself or others, and that can be very difficult sometimes. Doing something, taking action often is just enough to shift that so it's not stacking up. And then serving others. It's been scientifically proven that if you serve someone else, it not only benefits the person that you serve, it benefits yourself. And if there's anyone that sees that service, it usually also benefits them as well. So it's an awesome way to reduce stress. I would love it if you just put in the chat, what are some of the things that you do to reduce your stress or to calm down or to feel better? Okay, this is quite a lot of information on one slide, and I'm just going to go through it really quickly. It takes me a couple of hours to actually explain this in detail, and so I'm just going to give you a few of the details. So it's really important to understand what I call the mind model, which I learned from my friend Leslie Householder over at Rare Faith, because a lot of, well, especially if you're a person who loves to learn and you want to understand things, this becomes really important in understanding how healing works. I have this little sticker on my computer from the mind model, that little plus and minus that you see on the screen. And it's just a reminder that anything that happens to me is data just coming in. And whether it has a positive or a negative meaning is what I give it. So on top of the little stick man there, you see those 5 antennae, and that represents the 5 senses that we have. And that data is coming in through those 5 senses. And then the arrows that you see that are coming in and going out, that just tells us that we have an ability to reject those thoughts that are coming in. So if something stressful comes into your mind, you start really worrying and thinking about it, being afraid, you have the opportunity to say, what was that thought that I just had? And you have the opportunity to say, no, I am rejecting that, and I'm going to give it some positive meaning. So the 3 parts of the mind are the conscious, the subconscious, and the body. And you can see those things on the screen. The consciousness is us being aware. We're aware sitting in this summit right now. We're aware of people on the screen. We're aware that someone is speaking or teaching to us at this moment. It adds meaning, that plus or minus. It has the ability to accept or reject ideas and the ability to create new ideas, which is represented by the little cloud there. So when we want to go into creation mode, it's like we have this little cloud, these little ideas that are swimming around in our mind, and we have the ability to create something new and then bring it into our conscious, push it down into our subconscious, and then down into the body. The subconscious is the automatic life-sustaining functions that we don't have to remember. What if we went to bed each night? We had to worry about whether our heart was going to beat, whether we were going to breathe, whether we were going to wake up in the morning. We don't have to think about that because the subconscious handles that. It cannot reject ideas. So when we tell ourselves or someone else tells us as a child over and over, you're so stupid, our subconscious believes that we are so stupid. And then we have a whole host of things or consequences that can come from that belief. And then it responds to thoughts charged with emotion. And going back to that little idea cloud, when we have a new creation and we want it to come forth in our life or be expressed in our life. When we add thoughts charged with emotion to that, when we add affirmations and we get really excited about it and we can see the end of that creation, it brings that into our experience, and that's a part of the subconscious. And then the body is where our behaviors are, where our health conditions express, and where our actions are come from. And that's where we see the results. You see those results out to the side. So if we have positive conscious thoughts that go into positive subconscious programs, we're going to feel that in a positive way in our body, and then we're going to get results that are in alignment with that. And so it's the conflict around all of this that begins to create problems for us. I'm going to stop sharing right here and just talk to you face to face for a few minutes. So back over here. Okay, so why is all of that important? Why all of that is important is if you don't understand the way your mind works, you're always going to be fighting against it. And when you can't see that your past is literally a part of your present and your future, because of those subconscious programs, you can never live fully in the present or create a clear way to the future with your dreams and goals, because you're always creating from the past. So that's where your creations are coming from. And this is why healing is so important. Once you clear out the pain, the negative emotions, the struggles, the traumas, you can clear a new path to be present and to truly create into the future from a new place, a healed and happy place. Okay, so as was mentioned by Christine, I have been doing EFT for about 20 years. I trained with 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 originally back in 2003, I think. So it was about the same time Christine did. And what I learned is you can resolve any negative emotion in about 5 minutes. And I'm not talking about trauma. I'm talking about a negative emotion. So if you show up with anxiety, or if you show up with self-loathing, or you show up with doubt or fear, or I said anxiety, those things can be resolved very quickly. And what EFT is, it's an emotional version of the acupuncture without the needles. So if you've done acupuncture, you know they put needles in the meridians, and that's combined with behavioral theory with acupressure. And so it's a very unique experience that calms you so that you can think more clearly about your problem. So I'm just going to spend a minute on the Chinese meridians. I'm not an expert on this by any means, but EFT is based on the Chinese meridians. And so many of you probably already know this, but the meridians are energy pathways through which the energy that Tamara was talking about flows. And it connects different parts of the body, enabling balance and communication between organs, tissues, and emotions. There are 12 primary meridians, and each is associated with specific organs and functions. When you have any blockages or imbalances in these pathways, it can lead to physical or emotional issues. In EFT, or emotional freedom techniques, which a lot of people think it's just this tapping thing that you do, and that's true, but there are 48 different techniques involved with EFT that help you get to healing. And so when you tap on specific points along the meridians, it clears those energy blockages that come from stress or trauma or negative emotions or subconscious programs. And this sends a calming signal to the brain, particularly the amygdala, and that's where we process fear and stress, helping the body relax and restore balance. The funny thing about this to me, because like I said, it sends calming signals to the brain, is I was an emotional wreck when I first discovered this. And my history is that my parents were divorced when I was about 5 years old. My father kidnapped my brother and me. We never saw my mother again. I saw her once when I was 12, and then later I connected with her. So I grew up without my mom, and there was abuse and neglect from both parents. And in the end, after I had reconnected with my mom for about 18 months, a big thing happened in our family. And when my father found out, he threw a fit. And in the end, my mother committed suicide. It left me devastated. Of course, that was the most devastating day of my life. And it it has had some really wonderful consequences in spite of the difficulty and grief and darkness that I went through. But I was really looking for something after I got married and had children and realized I had all of this negative stuff going on. I didn't even really realize where it was coming from. I just knew I was stressed all the time. And when I discovered EFT and started using that on my past emotions and traumas and experiences, this calming signal that kept coming in over and over and over again began to have an amazingly positive effect on me. Those subconscious programs started being unwired, and my lack of belief in myself started to establish as a belief in myself. And the default statement of EFT is I deeply and completely accept myself. And over 20 years now, I can say that I do deeply and completely love and accept myself, which was not a truth for me. And I remember before I discovered EFT, wanting to find something, I felt so much compassion for people who were hurt, probably because of my own hurts. And so I was looking for something like I wanted a magic wand. I just kept thinking if I could just have a magic wand and figure out how to help people and help people heal and heal myself, you know. And EFT has been that magic wand for me. 20 years later, I have people say to me regularly, "You're so calm." And I just laugh hysterically inside of myself because I think that was not the truth. I married one of the most calm men on the planet. I think I needed him to help be patient with me as I went through this healing experience. And I've become a lot more like him. And it's partially because of his influence on me, but it's also because of my consistent use of EFT over the years, over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of experiences, and then reaching out to family and clients. And it's just been a great blessing to me. So that was longer than I meant to spend on that, but maybe it was important. So what is the science behind EFT? I want to share a little bit of that. I originally trained with Gary Craig, and at one point, Gary Craig retired. A lot of people don't know that, but if you've been with it for 20 years, you kind of know the history and the drama that was going on behind the scenes at the time. And at the point of his retirement, he kind of dubbed Dawson Church as his new kind of replacement. And so Dawson has a huge, he has a PhD in neuroscience, and he really wanted to put the science to EFT, wanted to find out what was going on in the background, how did it work, and whether it would hold up to scientific testing. And so over the years, Dawson has done a lot of amazing trials on EFT, and here's some of the things that were discovered. It reduces anxiety and stress. It reduces post-traumatic stress disorder. I've had a number of PTSD clients, and they don't have PTSD anymore. It reduces fears and phobias. It helps physical pain and fibromyalgia. It increases academic performance and test anxiety. Well, it decreases test anxiety. And then it really helps with weight loss and food cravings. And so in all of these test results, there were significant reductions of pain, fear, anxiety, enhanced well-being, and improved outcomes. And specifically with the anxiety and stress experiments, they found that they could go back 6 months later and find out that those things had held. And I'm sure that this is not the only modality that has these kinds of outcomes. Just not all of them have had the benefits of being tested. So we have, great resources in energy healing and other modalities. The most recent testing that came out, I actually just saw yesterday, coming from Peter Stapleton, who is a longtime expert in EFT, and she has just finished completion of some scientific study. And here's what she tested: in-person, group, and online EFT programs. And the EFT online programs were self-paced, so the people were working through it themselves. And in this study that she did, she found that somatic symptoms were reduced, pain severity was reduced, and in-person groups, in some of those pain and somatic symptoms, that people had depression. So they were looking at depression as well. And this was over 6 weeks, 12 hours of tapping, and they all had dramatic reductions. And there were no significant differences, whether it was in person or online self-paced, and that's pretty phenomenal. So it's a powerful modality that we have at our fingertips. What I loved about EFT is that I'm a do-it-yourself kind of girl. Like, I love to go learn and then apply it myself. And that was in my homemaking skills and my child raising, you know, and in health and healing. When I found I had a significant problem with health for a long time, with systemic candida and chronic fatigue syndrome. And the doctors didn't have any answers. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go find my own resources because I don't believe that I can't heal. And I think that's really critical in your progression, in your healing, is to have a belief that you can heal. There are answers and you can find those answers. So, of course, I was able to use EFT with a lot of physical symptoms, with the pain and grief around my mother's death, all kinds of migraines with my children, joint pain, back pain, every negative emotion, from stress to trauma to PTSD, phobias, addiction. I've helped my dad, who's been a lifelong alcoholic, break his addiction just in the last couple of years to alcohol. Loss of taste and smell is awesome. During EFT, I was like, I wonder if anybody's tried this on taste and smell. I did an experiment, had some amazing results with people. That was really fun because, you know, people who had total loss of smell had it restored. And it's just so cool, the things that EFT can do. Basically, if you can think that it might help, it will probably help. So the discovery statement of EFT, and this is based on some of the things that Tamara said and that meridian system that I mentioned, the cause of all negative emotions is a disruption in the body's energy system. That is the basis for EFT. All negative emotions are a disruption in that meridian energy system. The idea being that if you can restore the flow to that energy system, then those symptoms will go away. A lot of times those are emotions. A lot of times those are physical symptoms, because remember, the body is an extension of the mind. So if you have a disruptive thought and all of a sudden you experience an emotion and you feel that in your body, then that thought is the source of that disruption. And for me, EFT works like an electric switch. If any of you have ever lived in an old house, and we had a room like this in a house that we lived in previously, where you turn on just one too many things and that breaker flips off, and we don't go, oh, well, I guess we can never use electricity again. We're just stuck. We don't do that. We go outside, we flip the switch, and we're back to where we were. And maybe we turn the toaster off or unplug the vacuum or whatever it is that caused that disruption. But EFT works just like that. You know, we go through life, and I talked about stress earlier, where, you know, we have 2 or 3 stresses in a day, and then maybe we take a few deep breaths, we go on a nature walk or something, and some of that stress falls off. And then we have a few other things and it adds on, and we're constantly in this cycle of adding stress and releasing stress. Some of us do that a little bit better than others. But when you get too much stress building up and no release, it comes a point where you have that breaking point. And maybe it's something unexpected, like a tragedy or a trauma or something that we didn't have on our list that day, but comes in life. And that switch just goes off. And then we are functioning with severe anxiety or depression, or we cannot get out of bed, or grief that we just cannot overcome. EFT is that lovely little technique that can then flip that switch and restore that balance and help remove those symptoms. So it starts with a setup, and the setup is, which helps reverse that subconscious negativity. And this goes back to the subconscious that I was talking about earlier. That setup statement, even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself, is recognizing that we don't deeply and completely accept ourselves. We have a lifetime of people and programs and movies and music and everything there is out there telling us, you're not good enough, you should be afraid, things don't work out for me, I'm poor, I can't do that. All this negativity. And the basis of this setup statement is, in spite of everything, in spite of all of that, whatever beliefs I may not even know that I have about myself, I'm going to choose to accept myself with this problem. Everybody has problems. And we can all say, no, I'm not perfect. Never going to be perfect in this life. And for Tamara's message and my own belief is that Jesus Christ is the one that helps us become perfect. We can't do it on our own. So even though I have this problem, I deeply and completely accept myself. I think I'm going to, nope, we'll keep going here. So the affirmation equals acceptance, and that's a tremendous gift for ourselves. It is difficult or impossible to resolve any issue until you accept it. You know, that's a basis for Alcoholics Anonymous, that you accept that you have this problem. Now, I don't agree with walking around saying I'm an alcoholic for the rest of my life, but the idea being that you accept the problem and that you're doing what you can to address it. So that setup statement is, I have this problem and I'm a good person. I have this problem and I still accept myself. Okay, so these are the points. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on there. If you've done EFT, you know what they are. But you have the side of the hand point, the top of the head, right where the eyebrow starts. So not in your unibrow if you have one, where your actual eyebrow should start. And then on the corner of the eye, right next to the eye there, under the eye, under the nose, on the curve of the chin, and then just off center, below this V in your neck, to the right or left, on your collarbone, not out here, but more towards the center. And then 4 inches below your armpit. For women, that's just above the bra strap. So those are the points. And we're going to, this is one thing I also want to point out, is try it on everything. It can't hurt to try it. It really can't. And there are all these different things you can try it on. I've helped clients with most of these issues. I want to share one quick story about a client that I helped earlier this year. And he was someone I knew in my professional real estate community. And he reached out and said, I have tremendous anger issues and I'm afraid I'm going to break my kid. And he had a teenage son that they were having a lot of headbutting. And not as in physically, he was aware enough to know that emotionally he was going to really hurt his son if he didn't get control over this anger. So we met over the next 6 weeks and worked on that anger. And we worked on it, directly, that he had the anger, and to kind of take the edges off of that. And then we started investigating, where is that anger coming from? And it was coming from a lot of childhood beliefs that were put on him by his mother, who was a very successful judge, and that his belief was that she was responsible for was, you ruined my career. I had you and you ruined my career. I didn't get to be the judge I wanted to be because I had you instead. Brothers that, acted like brothers, did things like dumped him on the head in the street, just things that happen in the normal childhood. And we just went through each of those experiences and kind of unraveled them with the emotions that were attached with EFT. And after I think 4 weeks, I said, what do you want instead? Because he seemed to be managing the anger a lot better. And he said, I want to feel joy. I want to feel joy in my life. And so we started programming in joyful thoughts into the tapping. And by the end of it, he was just lit up and so excited, and has been doing well ever since then. So basically, we're going to do what is, if you guys remember the old game, Simon Says, and that is, I say something, you say something. I do something, you do something. And in this case, I'm not going to try and trip you up by not saying Simon Says. So you're just going to say and do what I say and do. So for a moment, I just want you looked at all those negative emotions. So either just identify a negative emotion that you're dealing with right now, or just kind of take a minute, take a deep breath, and just tune into your body and notice if there's any tension. If something has gone on in the last few days and you're really carrying it in your shoulders, or you have, anxious feelings in your chest, or maybe you're not feeling like you can speak what you want to speak and it's in your throat. Yes, I'll give you my email and I can send you the slides later.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had some questions about negative thoughts going to emotional, physical. So anyway.
Okay.
Maybe throw that in there.
Yeah, I will open that up, and I'm going to leave a couple minutes for questions. So, all right. So just tune into your body. Where are you feeling some stress? Where are you feeling some stress in your thoughts? And you're just going to say, even though I feel blank, or I'm thinking blank. And then we're going to say, I deeply and completely accept myself. So here we go. So you're going to just tap with me on that karate chop spot and just say, even though I'm feeling stress, and you can say in my chest or in my shoulders, wherever it is, I deeply and completely accept myself. Some people have a hard time saying that, but just kind of talk through it anyway. Even though I'm feeling this stress in my chest or shoulders, I deeply and completely accept myself. We do this 3 times. Even though I'm feeling this stress, wherever you're feeling it, I deeply and completely accept myself. And I should have asked you on a scale of 0 to 10, but you could just do low, medium, or high. Is it really low? Is it kind of medium? Is it really high? Just notice that. All right. And then this stress. This stress in my throat or my chest, wherever it is. This stress. These stressful feelings. This stress in my body. This emotional stress. This stress. Letting go of all of this stress. And then just take a deep breath. And then notice if there's a difference. If it was high, is it medium? If it's medium, is it low? Is it gone? Let's just do one more quick round. And then the follow-up is you just keep doing more and more rounds. One of the things that's really important if I'm working on someone, working with someone long-term is getting specific. So it would get really specific if you have, for example, pain in your knee, even though I have this sharp pain in my right knee. But for now, we're going to just keep it general. So, and I notice Christine is yawning, which is usually a sign of releasing negative energy. So even though I feel this stress in my body, wherever you feel it, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I feel this stress in my body, I deeply and completely, and if you're willing to say it, love and accept myself. Even though I feel this stress in my body, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And you can tap down either the right or the left side or both. This stress in my body. This stress in my body. Usually just the dominant hand, the stress in my body. I use my right hand. This stress in my body. This stress. Letting go of the stress. Embracing peace. Letting go of this stress. And then just take a deep breath again. And then just notice. If we were working one-on-one, I would ask you like what thoughts were coming up. Sometimes when you tap, the physical place will change. And so we have to chase it around and kind of run it down and resolve it. But it's a powerful tool that has absolutely changed and transformed my life. When I set goals, if I'm afraid, it helps me get past the fear sometimes. And the one thing I want to bring up too that I'm really starting to embrace this last year is negative. I mean, emotions aren't bad. I call them negative emotions just to kind of clarify, but emotions aren't bad. And sometimes just when you feel that emotion, maybe you're feeling angry, just asking a question of it is enough to resolve it. If you say, where is this anger coming from? And you might have a thought come into your mind, an inspiration. And that might help you say, well, why am I feeling that way? Where did that come from? And if you can chase it back, like James Allen says, if you can chase that back to the beginning, sometimes then it gives you the understanding that it helps you resolve, well, I learned something about myself when I was 5, and then you're able to resolve it just by thinking about it. But sometimes when you realize that anger comes from some kind of abuse or something, and then you go and you seek some help, and then you are able over time to resolve the emotions around that experience, then you can be released from it. And so ask yourself, where's this feeling of grief coming from? Where's this sadness or this anger coming from? And really listen to the answers. I'm really grateful to be with you today. I'm going to look over some of these questions. One of the things I'll let you know is that I do EFT scripts for people. I have a little form you can kind of fill out what's going on. So if you're really familiar with EFT, but you want a personal script, I do that. I do single appointments. I do long-term coaching for people who want that. And I'm offering 20% off to anybody on the call for any of those things. Yeah, so anything that I am not able to answer in the chat, if you just want to email me, I do free consults, and so just email me and I'll email you back and we'll get those things resolved. I'll send you the things that you're asking for, but I don't know if there's time for questions. I'm happy to answer any questions too.
Let's make sure you get into the Facebook group, Raise Your Frequency Facebook group, which all the things you're learning are raising your frequency, which is a perfect segue to Frequency School. Hello, my name is Christine Hull, and I'm the developer of the Frequency School. This program came about 7 years ago. I finally put it into a format that eventually became a ladder of love for the first awakening. What I found in studying Dr. Hawkins and other spiritual progression leaders is that the easiest format is to break it down into 7 levels. In the Frequency School, you'll start to uncover the power that we often leave behind in lower frequency arenas. These also, in these 7 levels, parallel with the chakra body. And I think that's what's so amazing about this model is that when you start to get in touch with what does a 100 frequency look like, you also get in touch with the power in your root chakra that you may have actually vacated because of an aversion to masculine energy or a mixed emotion around money or the experience of losing your power and not trusting your physical body or that integrated aspect of yourself. Sometimes people find they've got a shadow in their lower frequencies and their energy body. And what we're doing in this program is we're starting at that foundational level to see what's there, what's anchoring you in a negative way, and also where can you start to exchange the less pleasant aspects of those energy centers and those frequencies for the more potentially beneficial aspect. We're going to examine the 200 frequency, for example, and that's the point where people can experience a true quantum shift. We're going to talk about the elements of a quantum shift. And at a 300 frequency, we're going to look at what are the routines and what can you establish as habit that will get you really what you're looking for in areas, in the 5 life areas. You're also going to get a full frequency assessment covering those 5 life areas and looking at your strengths and your anchors or your lowest common denominators. And so you're going to get a one-on-one session as part of this program. And in that, we're going to identify these lower frequency events and those aspects that would shift everything if you could just shift those themes. Whether you want the immersive experience as a 2-day event, or you want the weekly experience as something that you can walk through as maybe a part of a 30-day program. And you'll have support from the group as well as group practitioners, and you'll get that one-on-one session to really dial in on what your frequency assessment shows and where your potential lies for a true quantum shift. As part of this program, you'll also get a full color copy of A Ladder of Love for the First Awakening. What we'd like to also invite you to do is join our full 30-day immersive experience, where we walk you through not just the frequency assessment, but we identify what is really going on with your mental emotional health, your mindfulness, your level of self-compassion. We can also look at things like your ego structure, your relationship qualities, and maybe even your habits. And with this full assessment, we get this very clear picture of you and your current situation. In 30 days, we're able to show shifts in people that are phenomenal. And it's so amazing to be able to see what has shifted, where it shifted. One of our strongest areas in the current Love Self Academy students is the area of self-compassion. What we find is that when we push ourselves to improve or do better, it may or may not be a compassionate move on our part. And so we focus on full self-acceptance, like we said, even delving into those shadow areas and finding what they offer you rather than fighting them or avoiding them or pretending that they don't exist. And through this model that we find in the full Love Solve Academy, if you're up for a 4-month experience, you'll see shifts beyond the 300 frequency to the 400, 500, even exploring into the 600. And I can't wait for you to learn more about what those are about, because we're living in a world that operates in a lot of polarity. You know, we have a lot of us and them, and we create that within our own minds, and we create that within our own paradigm of who we are and what we can handle or who is in our lives. And once we can resolve that, and as you see in the higher frequencies, it's holistic, it's integrative, it's about full acceptance of ourselves. And that extends out in a ripple, and it improves our relationship. It improves our point of attraction. It improves our job dynamics. And those are all things we look at through that 4-month program that even takes you into the world of potentially facilitating solutions for other people. The Frequency School is the first segment of a 4-month program that makes up the Love Solve Academy. So Frequency School takes you from 100 frequency to 300 frequency, and then it lets you know what's next. And it allows you to make the decision as to whether you want to continue in a 4-month program. Annie Vanderwerf and I will be leading the Frequency School. We both have a background in holistic and consciousness approaches. Her background is more in social policy and global health and wellness improvements. She's working on a doctorate in conscious leadership and is using a lot of what we've found in her research, in her model of global systemic change. We do ongoing meditation groups. We do membership communities that raise consciousness and create that solution in it's a joyful, connected way. I know a lot of those who are pioneers feel really isolated. It's like you're out there somewhere that your generational path hasn't paved for you, and that you're creating change that hasn't been done before. You're the people we really want to see. You're the people that we really want to support, because that's what we're all about. That's what the Love Solve Academy is it's so next level, but it works with you at whatever level you are at, and it will take you as far as you want to go. You can decide if you want it all and jump in, and we're happy to give you that full VIP experience right out the gate. If you want to do the 30-day program, that's priced at just a 30-day segment, and then you can decide from there if you want to continue. And if you want to just experience the Frequency School itself and have that immersion in the basics for building a better foundation, that's also an option. If you'd like to figure that out and what's best for you, please book a call. We'd be happy to chat with you and find out your unique situation, give you more information, answer your questions. The deposit you pay for just the initial Frequency School all applies toward the 30-day program and or the full 4-month program. So jump in, decide what you're ready for today, and if you have questions, give us a call.